Amazon representatives were in New York Wednesday for more than 3 hours of grilling by the city council. The subject at hand was Amazon's new headquarters. It plans to bring to Long Island City, a neighborhood in the borough of Queens. The offices are expected to bring jobs to the area, but also gentrification. Before the meeting even began, things got heated. Hazel Sanchez of our New York station WCBS has the story.
At the first in a series of public oversight hearings, protesters in city council chambers shouted their discontent with Amazon bringing one of its new headquarters to New York City. Council Speaker Corey Johnson urged the crowd to be fair.
But we want to be able to have this conversation, which is the first opportunity for us to have this conversation. So we can't have interruptions like this.
Johnson led the charge to grill Amazon executives about why they chose Long Island City and why the multi-billion-dollar deal was made without going through City Council's land use review process, leaving council members and the people of New York out of the decision.
Do you think it's a benefit to Amazon, a public benefit? Are we offering them a public benefit to avoid local oversight and avoid the ULURP process?
I think what we were fundamentally focused on was getting the jobs here.
Last month, Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio announced the deal, giving Amazon nearly $3 billion in various tax breaks in exchange for more than 25,000 jobs and $27.5 billion in new state and city revenue. Today, the mayor defended the agreement.
It does not surprise me that there are voices of opposition and critique. It does surprise me that more people are not saying, of course, I want 25 to 40,000 jobs.
The mayor and the governor caved to the richest man on earth and then handed the bill to each and every New Yorker. It's wrong.
Amazon will not receive any incentives until we create jobs and occupy buildings here.
Amazon vowed to be a good neighbor and keep its promises, but wouldn't commit to returning to face the public in future hearings.
Is this what you think being a good neighbor is and coming to New York City, not coming to one hearing, but not agreeing to come to other hearings?
Sir, I do not know the specifics of when you're planning these hearings, who the other witnesses will be.
We will put the hearings around your schedule so you can be there.
The next hearing is planned for January, but Council Speaker Johnson says it won't happen until Amazon agrees to show up. At City Hall, Hazel Sanchez, CBSN, New York.
And let's bring in New York Times City Hall reporter J. David Goodman. David, thank you so much for being with us. You've been covering this story. You were there at the meeting yesterday. Welcome to New York, right? Did it surprise you at how vocal it got?
No, not at all. I mean, this council had been sort of itching to have a chance to sort of say their piece to these folks from Amazon. They were, incensed that they'd been essentially cut out of the process by the deal that the mayor and the governor had signed. And normally they have some sort of say and actually a veto over these sorts of land use deals in New York City. They didn't get that here, and they really let Amazon have it.
Amazon can't be surprised, though, right? I mean, this is New York City. What else can you expect coming here?
Well, they weren't surprised, I don't think, because they'd been getting advice from these lobbyists that they've hired who know New York City politics very well. But in Seattle, and folks I've talked to who've dealt with the politics there say, they really haven't had that kind of grilling from politicians when they go before the city council in that city. So it was a little bit of a shock how, I think, aggressive the council members were, and that nobody really stood up for them. You had a room, it was essentially a hostile room for these very powerful executives, and they had to sit there and take it for about 3 hours.
New York may be unique in that way. So what exactly is at issue here? What is the main concern? That Amazon will come, gentrify the neighborhood, and then really not provide that many jobs locally?
No, I don't think anyone doubts that Amazon will provide the jobs. I think there's a fear. The objections are sort of twofold. One, people don't like the company. That's sort of, and they didn't want Amazon to come to Queens at all, and so that's a broad-based objection. And those folks fear gentrification, and not just in Long Island City, which has been built up dramatically over the last 5 years, but also further out in Queens and some suburban neighborhoods that people feel will get developed. But also that this money is being given over to a company that really doesn't need more money. And so the questions are, why are we giving $3 billion in incentives to a company that really needs our sort of talent pool and our sort of diversity in New York City? And that's why they chose to come here ultimately. So You have these two different objections, and both of those were on display yesterday.
And you've done some reporting on how Amazon has hired lobbyists to sort of go block to block, door to door, and plead their case. How is that going?
Yeah, so the lobbyists have been sort of, tactical in terms of who they're going to talk to. They've gone to friendly businesses and tried to urge them to get the word out. At the same time, you have sort of activists in these neighborhoods that are going around and really trying to get opposition out. And so there's this
they're
back
going
and
head-to-head,
forth.
kind of?
A little bit. I mean, it's interesting, and it's this moment where I think the politics of Western Queens, where this is happening, are very unsettled after you had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez get elected in a sort of a surprise in June. You know, this whole
And
plan.
she has come out against Amazon, correct?
That's right. That's right. She hasn't been that active in sort of mobilizing folks, but the people that are mobilized are people that went out for her as well, and that really shocked the sort of establishment in Queens.
So are they hoping then to get this deal scrapped, or do they just want to revise it?
Well, those folks want to scrap the deal. The people that are really coming out and saying, you know, Amazon, go home, you're going to cause our rents to go up. Other folks, the politicians, I think, would like to see more investment promises on the part of Amazon, which they haven't really made yet.
Right. So realistically, this deal is not going anywhere. Right? Who would have the authority to cancel it? Just the governor and the mayor?
There's a sort of esoteric and sort of very, sort of unknown board at the state level that has a say over this, and that has a vote from the state Senate, which is now in Democratic hands. So for activists, they think if they put up enough public pressure, there might be a veto that could happen there. At the same time, I think, you know, at the end of the day, if you cancel this deal, what you've gotten is not 25,000 jobs. And I think that's a hard case for politicians to make, that we did the right thing by canceling this.
So how realistic do you think it is that this could be canceled?
I think, you know, I think we'd say it's not that realistic, but then, you know, we would have said that, you know, Senator Crowley, or excuse me, Congressman Crowley would have been reelected. So I think
That's
we're in
right.
an uncertain period here.
This is New York City in an uncertain period. David Goodman of the New York Times, thank you so much for coming to see us.
Thanks.